Hello and welcome to today's new moon magical human show. So this is a new Hawthorn moon in Gemini on Tuesday, the 27th of May. The new moon will actually be with us shortly at 4:22 p.m. BST.
Is it this afternoon? I thought it was this morning. I got my hours muddled. I thought it was AM. No, it's me. It's me. You're right. You're right.
No, but you made me think maybe I'm not right now.
No, no, you're right. Hawthorn, love it. Love it. It's all coming into blossom now. It's beautiful.
Ours has kind of blossomed and gone. Is yours just
Yeah,
coming in
because you're
now?
down south, you see.
Yeah, yeah, you're on point. Whereas we're a bit premature, shall we
Yeah.
say. But what this one represents is the stillness between endings and beginnings. So
Yeah.
there's lots of people I am experiencing as kind of literally experiencing relationship endings and often sometimes out of the blue. And this is because Hawthorn is really about the heart. It guards the hearts, the guardian of the heart alchemy. So in between this kind of summer solstice, Beltane, we've got Hawthorn Moon, and this is fairy time. And the world feels very fae orientated, doesn't it, with all the flowers everywhere. And this is it's just so fecund and verdant still, thankfully. And now we've got the rains down here, finally.
Yeah, we do as well. It's pouring down. I just made it home before it started raining because it's going to pour down all afternoon.
We've had it since last night. I think we got it at 2 a.m. And it's just,
Wow.
it was light for a bit, but, and it's not poor. It's gone through stages, but I welcome it. The garden is
Mm.
drinking it in. The ground is so dry. But really, okay, so we've got fairness. And what this is about is the truth and the truth of your heart and the fact that you protect your own heart when you speak your truth. And people don't often speak their truth for fear of upsetting other. And it's about honoring heart above all other. And focus should be questions rather than answers.
And with Gemini being about communication, throat chakra stuff, and
Mine.
receiving as well as giving. Yeah, the communication and listening to the answers, asking questions and listening to the answers. That's our job, right? We both do a lot of that. And I feel, yeah, I don't know, things are shifting in my clinic space. Yesterday was very interesting. And I felt like it was something to do with what was coming, the moon. And it felt like also, like you say, this in between time. It feels like something has finished and something's about to begin. And I mean, globally, we are coming. Oh my goodness, I've been listening to Heather Ensworth and Bibud Dev Misra talking about the Kali Yuga and how we're coming to the end of that. And that's partly why there is so much violence going on, unexpected sudden violence, and then ongoing, tedious, exhausting, dreadful, depressing violence that seems like it's never going to end. But we know it is. It's got to because we're coming to this new beginning, the age of Aquarius. But also, it seems like the divine masculine and divine feminine. I've been thinking a lot about this and the left brain and the right brain and how they are becoming more communicative with each other, shall we say. And I heard from somebody who was it said this, the corpus callosum is is getting bigger, that bit of the brain that's in between the two parts of the brain. So this raises all sorts of interesting things because the masculine and the feminine, the two sides of every argument, all of this kind of stuff, there is going to be more communication and there's going to be more connectedness.
Okay, and the way I'm hearing that is the corpus callosum is like an assembly, like the hall inside the head, where the kind of all the different parts get to be heard. Yeah, the not the colony, the colossum, like how Colosseum,
The Colosseum, yes, exactly.
like
Exactly. The Great
all,
Hall.
the great hall inside, because it's
Hmm.
heaven on earth is the head. So the
Hmm.
great hall gets bigger. So the crown, the space for higher is bigger. So
Yes.
that kind of comes, and the fire, because it would have been around fire, wouldn't it? They met around
Yes.
fire. So
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
and fire is truth, and Hawthorn is fire
Yeah.
and truth and fae and magic and otherworldly. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, the brain adapts, doesn't it? The physicality adapts to
Mm,
because we are made of energy. The codes, the frequency, the
mm,
geometry of energy. So yeah,
mm.
form changes.
Oh gosh, yeah. And I was listening to again Heather speaking to Robert Edward Grant about this whole the geometry of everything. Like you
Yeah.
say, that's what made me think of him because he's such a polymath and all about the geometry and the numbers and stuff like that. And how when I was younger, I didn't understand maths. It was
Oh,
beyond me because I'm incredibly right-brained. However, as I've gotten older, I love it because the whole world is based on mathematics and the Fibonacci sequence and the vibrations and the golden ratio and all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely fascinating. Um, but also, I wrote notes about this because my chart, Gemini, is in the fourth house,
oh,
which is the home.
and the past and the roots. So it's your childhood, it's your roots, it's your ancestry, and it's your foundation.
Yeah. And there's nothing else there. There's no planets. There's
It
nothing.
wasn't a huge, it wasn't of huge importance. So if there's
But
planet,
it is. I have spent so much of my adult life researching my ancestors and my roots, and I came over here to find them, you know. So
okay,
it's really interesting. However, the opposite of the midheaven is the IC.
the Imam Coli is the fourth house. Then the 10th house is the midheaven.
So that's what is it called?
Your Imam Coli is your fourth house,
Imam coli.
your midheaven is your 10th house.
Yes. So that's where Gemini is obviously it's my fourth house. I also have Beetlejuice there. I like to call it Beetlejuice because I love the film, but
Me too.
Betelgeuse, the planet
Oh,
is
okay.
there, is right there in the middle of that one. So, well, no, it's not. It's sort of at the end of Gemini. But yeah, there's nothing because these conjunctions, the sun and the moon are conjunct right now at the beginning of Gemini,
Mm.
and it doesn't really mean anything to me in that sense, but I think my general concern with my ancestors is that I am looking into the ancestral karma,
Yeah,
but it's not there. My nessus is somewhere else altogether.
well, lots of people are looking into their ancestry for the answers to the stories that they're reliving in this lifetime, because that's where the roots of these stories are, and doing lots of clearing. So I still continue to be clearing and
Mm,
healing and drawing people back into those places and getting them to ask those questions. So it's like getting someone to consider something they've never even considered before, and then ask questions of it to divine. what they need to know, but it's the quality of the question. It's the meaning of the question that's important because
Mm,
you can find out everything was just fine, but fine
mm,
can mean so many different things. But yeah, it's a really yeah, I've found the energy quite soft, busy, still very, very busy. Actually, there has been moments of anxiety. Maybe I'm not totally. I've drunk a lot of Damiana for the client that I cleared this morning, and now I'm drinking California Poppy to clear all the anxiety that the huge teenager stay over in the back garden created last night. So I'm
oh my
just like,
goodness.
maybe I'm just not really in touch with how I am because I'm on a beautiful psychotropic plant wave of happy bats. And I feel good about this new moon. This new moon feels really, to me, feels really, well, we know with new moons, so this is the opportunity for people to put into place, to call in their plans, and also so it's new beginnings, but it's also opportunities like full moons, but letting go and stepping into new patterns. So I like, yeah, so this new moon feels better than most, actually. It feels a bit of a clearing
Mm, mm.
moon, like just clearing energy. I know that because I've stopped wanting to carry on mainlining sugar like a crack whore.
Yay.
Yeah, I want to, but I'm not giving into it
Mm,
so easily.
mm.
Mm.
That's good. Well, I've embarked on a low histamine
Oh, good.
diet.
Makes
Yeah.
a huge difference. No
Well,
chocolate.
it will do. I mean, I've let go big time of the sauerkraut and the kimchi, which, everybody says they're really good for your gut. Well, no, not always. Not things that, might be good for me at some point, but not right now.
Yeah. And have you noticed a difference?
Somewhat. Somewhat. It's fine tuning because I did take out my kinesiology test kits and there's a histamine vial in one of them. So I actually balanced myself for the histamine because I realized that was probably more influential than the cortisol, which has been coursing through my veins for the last God knows how many years. Because I was talking to somebody today about the how, burnout happens and how she crashed because she was dashing around like a mad thing. And then she repaired what she thought was the problem and then carried on dashing around like a mad thing. The universe arranged for her vehicle to be stolen. And then she got really ill again because she treated it, but it wasn't all gone. And it was like, okay, yeah. And I said, well, what happened to me is I got forcibly made to stop and change. And I think I'd stopped just in time before I completely crashed and got really ill.
Mm.
But I'm still carrying the residual potential of that being really ill. So this is what I think a lot of people do is they think being okay is them being healthy, whereas there's things simmering under the surface and we're holding on and coping like you must have been last night with all those kids. Like, I have to cope with this. Whereas you probably didn't want to, but you have to put your own stuff away and deal with it. And that's like, all parents have to do this quite a lot of the time.
I,
And
I did keep expressing to my daughter how freaked out I was.
good, good. Yes. Well, this is the thing. This is people think that they can't just, say how they feel. But, there's been another instance of that somebody mentioned this week saying they at least they had to say how they felt. It didn't make any difference to the situation, but at least they had to say how they felt. And that's it. That's all you're doing is you're loosening the ties on your own energy field, which then will not hopefully manifest as a physical ailment.
And also allow the person that to appreciate why your behavior might be a certain way, because what's behind it is, well, in my case, was ultimately fear and anxiety. And so I had to just keep saying, I'm really nervous about this, I'm worried. And that was enough to keep us from having a massive clash.
Mm,
She pushed me into doing it, and I didn't really want to do it.
mm. But then she's had the chance to see you as a human being,
Well, she gets
not
that all
just a
the time.
voice of authority. You are a human being with needs and concerns as well as being the voice of authority. Yeah.
I think she sees the human being with needs much more than the authority. What's going on there?
Sorry, my phone was not on.
Oh, okay. So yes, the body and letting things out, speaking truth, that's all very relevant.
Mm.
Yes, I agree. You were saying some
And
other stuff which was really important. Go on.
what I've just remembered also is I'm discovering working more and more on the external energy,
Ah,
like the figure eight thing
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the figure eights that I do around the body generally anyway. Let me just put this on silent because it was not. Um, and sometimes that's the most appropriate way to deal with someone's imbalances. They may seem like physical imbalances. They may seem like they need acupuncture or magnets or tapping or direct healing, but actually the healing needs to start out here.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to be doing more of that, I
I
think.
do that. Well, yeah, I guess that's my focus. I had somebody come to me today to remove uh a black magic. Um
Mm.
no, it's fine.
Yeah,
And
but they must have felt, "Ugh." I'm just feeling into their,
yeah, and well, yes, and it was quite interesting in the fact that they they said to me, I have to be careful. They said to me, "Can you do can you reverse a spiritual curse from this type of magic?" And I was like, "Yeah." And what way are you going to work? Well, my way. Um, what will that involve? Can't tell you, haven't met you. Come and see me, we'll discuss. And it was fine, and it all went well. And I just know that none of it is ultimately, everything is surmountable, everything is manageable, everything has some fundamental truths about it, and is possible, and it's not to be kind of fearful of. And yes, I wore black as well as turquoise, and I set my room up properly, and I made sure I took all the necessary steps to make sure whatever happened didn't kind of, move on to me, which it hasn't at all. And that I, yeah, could do my work properly, which I did. But it's just interesting, the semantics of people's, it's all the same thing. All of it's universal and it's the same thing. That's
yes,
all I can say. It's the same.
yes. And, you know, people might hear that and go, oh, black magic, that's the bad stuff. And the other stuff is the good stuff. And there is really no good or bad. I talk to people, they say about negative emotions. I'm going, there are no negative emotions. They're all just emotions, and they all have a purpose. And there was a purpose for that person having that experience that they
It
had,
was.
and they
And it was
wanted you to
related.
help them with it, but they ultimately dealt with it themselves, their energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I said to them. I said, ultimately, I will set you up, I will guide you, you will do the work. And that's what I do, is orchestrate them doing the work on themselves. So much stronger, so much
Mm,
more lasting and possible. And it's uplifting. But yeah, and the issue was related to Hawthorn.
yeah.
And yeah, and
Wow.
questions.
Wow.
So I didn't look into the new moon because I didn't have time, because I did that first thing this morning.
Mm.
So then I was looking into the new moon. I was like, oh, there we go.
There we go. It explains everything. It's
Right.
lovely, isn't it? Because sometimes it's nice to be prepared in advance to think about, what's coming, but then sometimes it's better not to, and it's just to live it, see it, feel it, and then look back and go, ah,
Well, I
now.
find as well, if I have too much information, it blocks what I'm picking up because it conditions my expectations of like when this person mentioned this particular type of black magic, I could have gone off and Googled it. And I
Mm,
specifically knew not to do that, intuited not to do that, because then I thought I'll go off down a whole rabbit warren of things I don't need to know, and it will condition how I then respond. Whereas if I leave it as almost like a blank canvas, this is how I work, then
mm,
I can intuit from my own records and knowledge what needs to be done and trust that it will be done the way it needs to be done and everything will work out. If I get too much information, I feel it almost undermines me. It
mm,
undermines my process because then I start to apply a kind of critique to myself. Oh, you forgot that bit, or that should have been more like that. Whereas I
mm.
prefer it a bit more raw.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, when I'm asking the body the questions as
Mm.
to what we're supposed to deal with, um, I say to people, well, I think we could do this, 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 or this, but now we have to check with your body because within the range of things that I'm offering, your body has got the choice
Mm.
as to which way we're going to go. And
Oh,
so, that's and I keep going back to check what's next, which priority are we on? Structural, nutritional, emotional, or electromagnetic.
perfect, June, because the body's an antennae.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the living antennae, the living Dorian Gray of basically what we're doing. So, and what we're feeling. So, I've never thought, I mean, I always check the body and ask which bits and locate it to whichever meaning the astrological terms have that way. And I
Mm,
ask the body for medicine like dowsing, diet, supplements, da da da. But I
mm,
don't say to the body, tell me which bits are your priorities. I'm going to do that. Do you mind if I
mm,
nick that process? Because that sounds
mm.
wonderful.
Well, there's a lot of people using techniques that they call muscle testing. And I've been all like, you can't call that muscle testing. There's the silent counseling people do a thing like this. And I'm going, well,
What?
whatever it is
What?
not muscle testing. They test the resistance when they rub their finger and I could never get it. I've been on several seminars and I just can't get it. And it's definitely not muscle testing. It's rubbing your fingers together. But anyway, they are doing that and that works for them. That's fine. And then there's those of us in kinesiology who lean on a muscle
Mm.
directly and test its resistance. But there are people who've been for a number of years now talking about the sway test.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. And it's maybe got something to do with kinesiology, but it isn't really, as far as I know. It was never taught in any of the courses I went on, but there's rumblings about it in the
Yeah,
background.
I tell people to do it like
Mm,
when they're like getting into their bodies, because my job is to get them back in their bodies and out of here and
hmm
the antennae. So when they're out, so I teach them just briefly. I say, right, stand up and check your yes and your no. And I said, if
hmm
you're out without a pendulum, because we learn that when you learn about dowsing, is that you can use your body as your
Yes,
dowsing, but you
it
have
is dowsing with your own body. That's
it is
exactly.
exactly, but you have to be able to really clearly know your own yes and no and be finely. So it really works on earth people. Earth people find it really easy because they're much more sensuous and in their bodies, so they can really work out the nuances. An air person is likely to overthink that and think, am I actually, or have I persuaded myself that that means yes? Do I really
How
mean
can this
that?
be true? Yeah, I know. It's really funny. And so, yeah, if you start asking yourself, why am I doing this? Or are you not clear about your questions? That's the thing. You have to be absolutely clear that the question is one that you can get a yes or no answer to, and you're not ambivalent about it. And so yeah. Yeah, the best test is to ask it, is my name June? And it will
Yeah,
go,
yeah, yeah. That's what I start off with the name one and then just pick someone else's name. Then you get the no, and then
yeah,
you
and then it's really clear.
exactly. And then you can say in a restaurant, I use it often for this kind of thing. I say you run your finger down the menu and you're not sure what to eat, and just see which bit you lean into and which bit your body leans out of, and you'll be quite surprised at your body going, actually, I would rather you had the vegetarian risotto tonight and not the cheeseburger. So,
Yeah.
no, or it might be, oh, actually, tonight I would like you to eat the cheeseburger. And, it's things like just
Mm.
having that relationship with the body,
Hmm.
allowing that to happen. Yeah, I'm with,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Um, so
It's good. So that's one way I'm letting go of my past rigidity about this is this and that is that, and
oh,
getting annoyed about people crossing over their. I mean, I still think people should stay in their lane by and large, but random people taking 2 weekend or 1 weekend even studies in acupuncture is not sufficient to
in
give
acupuncture.
any degree of expertise or knowledge or understanding of acupuncture. It's not at all. It's just here's the point, here's the pin, stick it in it. And it's like, yeah. But I'm still up my own arse about that one.
No,
But
but that's fair enough because that is energy points, that's biology, that's, it's many acupuncture is not simply sticking a needle in and then it's like which energy meridian, what's the kind of did the needle go in easily? Did it fling out? There's just I don't do
the
acupuncture.
pathways, they don't study the path.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
started calling them energy pathways now instead of meridians.
Okay, well,
As
energy,
more
yeah,
people understand that, they go, oh, I see. Because I find that there are many more people suddenly able to grasp the fact that we are energy beings. It's just kind of happened
yeah.
in this
It's
last little while. It's
God, it
just,
has.
mm,
Thank God it has. But yeah, I know what you're saying, Scorpio. You would be very fixed. But there is something about, in my experience, is ultimately the work is similar, the tools may be different. But
exactly.
most of us have studied a wide range of different things, not just
Mm,
one thing, because
mm,
you need a wide variety of tools in your kit because people are complex. And
mm,
so the issues are complex. And in the end of the day, people are attracted to the healers they want to work with. They can look at your face, my face, and go, yeah, you know what you're talking about. Or actually, no,
mm,
you're terrible.
mm. You're not the person for me.
Yes,
Yes,
absolutely.
that's the honest answer. It's not that you're rubbish or you're better than someone else. It's just you're the right person for that person at that moment in time.
I think there's a lot of rage around at the moment. As you say, the Kali Yuga, I need to look more into that, is coming to its end. But I read a rage post that someone had written about feeling rageful about the number of people that were running retreats and the fact that they didn't have the experience and knowledge, and it was all getting a bit too kind of, too much, and people used to spend their lifetime studying in mystery schools, and it was the work of this and the work of that, and I just looked at this post and I thought, I'm glad we're now in a world where people feel that there might be too many of these things. Personally, I don't think there's enough, and we welcome these people, and there's somebody for everybody. Even if somebody is slightly spiritual and is running a yoga retreat and someone goes on it, they could have a spiritual epiphany. Who's to say they will or they won't? But it was
Mm,
the reference to the mystery schools which made me chuckle because I thought, actually, the mystery schools are basically when people made it for the elite. Taking it out of mainstream, stripping you and I of our ability to connect with the divine force and have any kind of magical experience, and
mm.
it was put into dogma for people to have to study. And they were studying for years and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we have anyway, but in the school of life, I would argue.
Yes.
And it just kind of like, what were they doing? And then these people that just were they helping anyone? And then these people that were kind of basically dedicating their lives to, when you had the people that just went off, the hermits that went off and lived for 7 years in a cave somewhere, and everyone just accepted that. And I thought they would have been largely men. If you'd seen any woman doing that, you would have gone, she's insane, and incarcerated her. So, the only way women were allowed to have spiritual kind of journeys for that length of time was in the walls of a kind of abbess in the side of a church. So I just thought,
Mm.
It's just interesting. Everybody's got their stuff and what they're calling upon. It's better now that more people get access to this and learn how to activate themselves and learn that they are themselves sovereign beings. And then it stops being anyone's. It's not owned. It's universal.
Well, this is exactly it. I don't have any right to say I am better at acupuncture than someone who's done 2 weekends. I know I probably am, but the healing that we're all doing is our own specific skill set. And they're not just doing that. Like you say, they're bringing other things into it. And I think we have to be more inclusive of everybody practicing whichever way round. And this whole protection of title malarkey that we tried to go for a number of years ago and failed, I think there's a reason that that happened. I think we don't want to protect because it's like putting a rigid fence around. And like you said at the beginning about people, what did you say about the heart? I wanted to come back to that because their heart chakra, when people
Speak with truth. The truth of
speaking
the
their
heart
truth, yes,
protects the heart, protects it.
yes, yes, that's right. And if we don't, then we end up building a wall around it in a way that we think is protecting it, but it's a shell. It's a closure of the heart chakra, and what it has to be is open right now.
Exactly, because what happens, it's like with food, if you keep giving your energy away to people, the givers, their body will furiously try and create homeostasis by overeating. So they're giving it back to themselves. Like, I'm trying to ground, I'm trying to ground, I'm too much in my head, I'm trying to ground, because your body is going to do something. So if your heart isn't open and you're not speaking your truth, the heart is going to build an energy like wall around itself because it's like, you've left me with virtually nothing. I'm now a tiny little shriveled raisin, and that's all that's left of me. And I need to stay alive. So now I'm shriveled and I'm behind this wall, and the little shriveled raisin behind the wall needs to kind of, be nourished from the inside, sacred spring of eternal love from within, to become a grape, to grow a grape tree, a
Mm,
vine, even grape vines, and then to climb over the wall. But
mm, mm.
yeah, absolutely, because any kind of imbalance will be addressed. It's like you're not going to be necessarily conscious of that, but it's going to happen anyway, in one way or another. You're going to try and protect yourself. That's your whole. We're so motivated, that back brain, to live, that reptilian part of us, that it will do everything it can to survive.
Yeah, it will. But a very dear friend of mine 2 weeks ago, did I tell you about this? She left, and I've been thinking about it a lot because it was a big shock that, she was healthy mostly, I think. I mean, we all have things that need working on them. She was working on them, but she developed this really bad cough and she went into the hospital and didn't come out.
And what was it?
Well, you know what they said it was.
Really?
Yeah. And they intubated her, put her on a ventilator, and then they did an MRI scan. This is what I've heard from one of the people who was closest to her. Um, so I don't know. I wasn't there. The family has not divulged this, so I want to be very careful what I say. But at the end of the day, her brain was damaged one way or another. And so they turned the machine off. And it's like she allowed that in a way. She let that happen. So her soul must have been okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was her time, but it was also her time, and for everyone to again ask questions,
Hmm.
poking questions by her departure, because so that her death was not in vain. That's the thing. It's like,
That's the point, isn't it? Well, what it's made me very clear about is saying to people, do not go to the hospital with a cough.
yeah,
Deal with it at home. I mean, I'm don't just not saying be reckless. You've got to look after it. If it becomes something bigger than just a cough, like with a label, this is the trouble though. We put labels on things and then they're fixed and
Yeah.
they require that medicine to sort them out. And so, of course, you tell somebody they've got pneumonia and they need antibiotics. That's the route that most people go down. And I think it takes a brave person to go, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to deal with it with homeopathy or with cupping or, you know, whatever other way. But and she was normally that person. So yeah,
That's
it's
all very.
strange the way she got sucked through the veil. It was like well, it was Beltane. It was just a few days after Beltane. So, and you had been saying how the veil was really thin. And I just thought, oh my God, she saw the veil was thin and she went.
It will be the right time. It's because
It's
that
so shocking. I mean, it is so shocking because she wasn't that much older than me. She's only a little bit older than me, I think, virtually the same age and pretty well still carrying on working and doing her stuff. So, yeah.
mm,
And always being very careful with her own health, if you know what I mean.
mm,
She did not take any
medit
medications.
wow. And then to be told that got you in the end anyway.
Yeah. Hmm,
'Cause
hmm.
I didn't even think that was still happening.
Yeah, well, this is from that point of view, it was important for us to know that,
Yes,
to
that
be
it is
careful.
happening. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No
Whereas
time to let up the where being aware. I mean, that in itself requires too much cholesterol, too much cortisol for me to be constantly meerkatting. But we still have to be alert
we
somewhat.
do. So we both learn something, and anyone that's listening to this will also learn something. So that is food for thought in all of this. It is an interesting time.
Mm,
Keep your wits about you, people.
mm.
Question things, and yeah, look after yourselves first and foremost in the most natural ways you can possibly imagine, which is actually simply good diet, exercise,
Yes, and sleep.
sleep, speaking your truth, being aware of what your truth is.
Yeah. And
Mm.
listening to your body, listening to your heart, listening to your higher mind. Yeah.
So I think that we're going to draw to a close now. So all
Good
of you
time to
out there, think about new moon kind of spells if you want to. You could put tie your wishes to the branches of a tree and let the wind carry them into the cosmos, or simply think them, for Gemini is all about thought, thinking, frequency,
mm.
communication. Invite him to fly in with his little wings on his feet and take them out there and spread them far and wide. So be thinking on that and set yourself up now, and we'll see you at the full moon. When we'll see what culminated and when we are there in a couple of weeks, would you say, June?
I will be here.
I shall look forward to it.
Me
Anything
too.
else to end with?
No, I think that's plenty. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.